Let's bring in Al Michael. Whoa, look at Al. Albino outside there. Got flowers there. Looks
Got the
good.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Dan, we also have occasionally some hawks and crows that come by. So I've had to hire because I don't want anybody to interrupt us.
Oh, well,
I have
thank you.
my own security. I have a security force here. I have 3 of these guys, right? So the plastic owls, let your audience know if you have crows and hawks in your backyard, go to a gas station, get some ceramic plastic owls for about $1.20 a piece, and that will do the job.
And you know what?
So we're good. We're good to go.
You know what we call those?
What do
Al
we call those?
Michaels.
There you go.
No.
Very, very good,
Thank
Dan.
you.
Very, very good.
Thank
The
you.
comedy stylings of Dan Patrick. You haven't lost an inch, my man.
What was the
Welcome,
first?
by the way. Welcome to Peacock.
Well, thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
Cool.
What was the first NBA game that you called? Do you remember?
The first NBA game. Well, I did it for 2 years back in the 03-04 season. Christmas Day, 03. Houston at the Lakers. It was Yao Ming as a rookie. It was the Kobe, Shaq, Gary Payton, Karl Malone year with the Lakers, with Phil Jackson threatening to retire, which he subsequently did and then came back. So that was the first game I did. I did it with Doc Rivers. I was looking for a partner. They wanted me to do the NBA. The funny thing is, I wanted to get some practice games in that year. And so Mark Jackson had retired and was living in Santa Monica. And we went down to Staples and we did the game. And Mark was good. I remember Mike Pearl was the executive producer of the NBA. And Mike said, "What'd you think?" And I said, Mark's going to be really good someday, but he's green. He hadn't done it before. I hadn't done basketball in like 25 years. So I really needed somebody who had some experience. And then my good fortune was that Doc Rivers got fired by Orlando that year. I think they started 1-10. And then he and I danced the dance that year. And then he went to Boston, and I did one more year of the NBA with Hubie Brown, the great Hubie Brown, who's still going strong. That was number one.
When you're calling a game in person without the audience, like how I don't know if you've done that, but like a small crowd, like how much does it help in you doing your job?
Well, I do have some experience because when I did the San Francisco Giants in the mid 70s, 74, 5, and 6, terrible team, horrible ballpark, cold. On an August night, I remember in maybe 75, playing San Diego. Each team is 22 games out of first place. Nobody's there. It's cold. It's terrible, bitter. And they handed me a sheet with the attendance figure. And I looked at it and I said, "Here's tonight's attendance. Let me just tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Jim McAlpine have come in from Mill Valley. Harvey Palukian has driven up from Milpitas. The Bernstein family came up on a station wagon with the dog, but they left the windows open in the parking lot." And that's what you do. And it's so much more fun, obviously, when you're doing it with a big crowd and great crowd noise. So this is going to be interesting. And we're going to start, in Kansas City, they're supposed to have maybe a quarter of the stadium. So that's 2 weeks from Thursday. We'll see. I don't know what that's going to sound like. Everybody's supposed to wear a mask. And then 3 weeks from last night, we're right back here. We open up this $5 billion stadium in Inglewood, which is tremendous. It's unbelievable, with no fans. Cowboys, Rams on Sunday Night Football. So it's a lot of trial and error, Dan. We'll see how it works out.
Is there plan B if you can't go and you and Chris have to call it by remote?
I've not heard of that. I think that would be extremely difficult, and I would not like that at all. I think basketball is in a relatively confined area, so I think you can call basketball more easily than you can the other sports. Baseball, fairly similar in that regard. Mike Emmerich, of course, is the greatest. I mean, Mike doing hockey, whether he's in the arena or sitting in his home in Detroit. I mean, I'm watching him the other night thinking he's not missing very much. He's missing maybe 2%. And that 2% is because he's not there. And you've got Pierre Maguire who's there. So that's working out well. I think football is very tough because you have to see the field. You have to see how they align. It's all spread out. And on a 40-yard pass downfield, that's going to be a very difficult thing to call. And plus, you just you can't feel it. There's a rhythm to the game. Yeah. Even though there's no crowd, maybe you'll put in some crowd noise, which I think is working fairly well with these other sports. So I would much, much, much prefer to be there, and hopefully we don't have a plan B, and we don't have to do a game off a monitor.
Do broadcasters need the preseason? We know the players do to a certain degree.
I don't think so, except in this particular circumstance. Uh, this is to paraphrase our great buddy Jim Nance. I mean, this a tradition like none other. This is a season like none other. So we have to go through a lot of the protocols that the players do, that other people who are going to be in the stadium. So there are a lot of things to think about before we get on the air, and that's the only thing I'm concerned about, because for the most part, normally our first game that we would do would be the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. And almost every year that I've done the NFL, that's how we start. And you get into a rhythm fairly quickly. So you don't need preseason in that regard. But in this particular case, I think it would have been helpful to just see, hey, how do we get into the stadium? What do we do? How do we travel? What happens around the game itself? I think once we get on the air, it'll be fine.
Talking to Al Michaels, of course, the play-by-play voice, NBC Sunday Night Football. I can't believe that we're a couple of weeks away from the start of this NFL season. And then you had this false positive outbreak with the NFL with the testing. Al, if this is 2 weeks from now, I mean, this could shut down a game, I'm guessing, or I don't know what kind of damage it would do to the game.
Well, I see that the lab said there was some contamination. I mean, this is not likely to be necessarily a one-off. We've already had false positives. We know what happened with Matthew Stafford. So this is a day-to-day thing. I mean, right now, the league is on schedule to start 2 weeks from Thursday. A lot can happen between now and then. A lot can happen on that Thursday morning. Who knows? What if a Patrick Mahomes test comes in positive, but it was a false positive? We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. But, there's so much, as you know, over the last 6 months, contradictory information. Don't forget, when this thing started, oh, it's a winter thing and everybody's sick right now, and we'll get to summer, everybody will be fine. It only affects old people, not young people. That turned out to be 100% false. So we don't know. And everybody says, believe the science. Well, that lab in New Jersey is part of the science, right? So at this point, this is an ongoing saga. Hopefully it has a smooth road to travel. And we get to the end of the season. I think, right now, I think the season looks like it's going to start on time. We're ready to go. Everything seems to be fine, but it's a long way between now and February.
We see these second-year quarterbacks make a jump. We've seen this in recent history where, then they become legitimate MVP candidates. Mahomes is the latest in Lamar Jackson to be able to do this. But when you see these quarterbacks, like, what is the one thing that would stand out that you saw the jump if you want to, Lamar Jackson from one year to the next, Patrick Mahomes, maybe Kyler Murray this year? Optically, what is it that you see where you go, that's different than the year before?
And then go all the way back to Russell Wilson. They can run and they can throw. I mean, they can do both things. So is the day of the drop back in the pocket quarterback Tom Brady over? No. I mean, Tom's still pretty good. And of course, that's going to be one of the great stories this year to follow what happens with him. But it's I don't want to say the new breed, because I was reading the other day about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes have changed the game. Go back to Randall Cunningham. He changed the game too. And I think Sports Illustrated had a story on the cover in 1988 and called him the ultimate weapon. So you go back to a guy like Cunningham who did a lot of these same things. So we've had these quarterbacks through the years who came in and were able to do both things. And now you've got, with Mahomes and Jackson, I don't want to say taking it to a new level, but these guys are, they're not only great, but they're also exciting. And I think this makes the game better. And people want to see them. Not only are those guys good, but they're exciting. You don't know what's going to happen. And that's what you look for. But you need special talent to be able to do that.
But we're embracing that style now, Al, whereas before it felt like these coaches and GMs fought that style.
For sure, Dan. And why wouldn't you? Look at the problems you present for the defense. If you're defending Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or somebody like that, uh, you're looking at it from a defensive coordinator standpoint a lot differently than going up against Tom Brady, for sure. Because Tom Brady's not going to do the things those other guys do. But so it gives you, I don't want to say more of a headache as a defensive coordinator because they figured out ways to do it, but it's something else to think about. I mean, with Mahomes, and we proved it last year, the play is never over. The play is never over. But then again, you've got other pocket quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger, coming off an injury, but Ben a few years ago, I once likened him to trying to tackle an apartment building. He may have gone into the pocket, and everybody's around him, and they're at his feet, and trying to knock him down, and somehow he escapes. So these guys come in different styles, different models, and it makes the game even more fun to me.
You sneak in a gambling reference occasionally, right?
Yeah, sure.
Have you bet on games?
I have not. And I'll tell you why. No, I love to go to Las Vegas. I mean, I love to play craps. That's the greatest game ever invented. But I don't bet on sports. And Dan, you've been around it so long. It's so funny. We know so much. I mean, Chris and I and Fred Godelli and Drew Esikoff and Michelle Tafoya and our core group, we meet with the players and the coaches, and we know the owners and the general managers and the personnel people. And, nobody studies more tape than Chris. We don't know who's going to win the game. We'll drive out to the game and go, what do you think? And 50% of the time we're wrong. So the great thing to me about sports, the wonderful thing is everybody thinks they know, but they don't know. You don't know. And that's why I love sports, and that's why I don't bet on sports.
I bet when I was younger, and I thought I knew it all. And I realized I didn't enjoy gambling. I didn't watch the game. I couldn't, I just, it was driving me crazy. And then even if I won, I still didn't enjoy it. And then I went cold turkey. I lost the Orange Bowl. I lost $3,300 on an Orange Bowl.
It's a lot of money in those years.
Yes,
wasn't it?
it was. It was a lot of money. And I was up $6,000. And I lost $3,000 and then the VIG. And then I quit. I walked away, bought my mom a dishwasher, and paid off some school loans. But that I have never, and people always say, hey, do you want to put down a dime on this? And I go, nickel. No, I don't want to do that at all. But people always come up and they'll say the following: who do you like? And I go, no. I had Pete Rose ask me and Bob Costas at the 1986 playoffs between the Mets and the Astros. Pete comes up to us on the field. He goes, who do you like? And I said, and I don't know that Pete's gambling. I'm going, well, hey, you got Mike Scott, and the Mets can't handle Mike Scott. And he walks away, and Bob goes, why did you tell him that? I go, I don't know. He goes, he's going to gamble. He's going to bet on that. I'm going, oh, my God.
Nobody knows. I mean, to me, there's so many examples of, you think, look, there are so many statistics and analyses out there right now. And somebody will say to me, well, what about the fact that, on any given Thursday, I'm going, stop it. And it's so true, because especially in all the years I did the Triple Crown, and I think I did 15 derbies in a row between 1986 and 2000 with the great Jim McKay and others like Hank Goldberg. And people would come up to me at Churchill Downs walking through the grandstand. Who do you like? And I would go, Seabiscuit, or I would go, Man of War, and they would look down at the program. Well, where is he? What race is that? And nobody knows, but this is why sports are so great.
When's the last time you went to a game, doing a game, and you were absolutely wrong in what you thought was going to play out? Or the other way, that you were absolutely positively correct that this was going to happen?
No, never. I mean, I'd have to think back, to like last year. There are Sunday night games that just turn out to be the exact opposite of the way you think they will play out. And we've had a few of them last year. I mean, one game, we didn't do the game, but we did the game the following week when Minnesota played the 49ers in the playoffs, and Minnesota shocked New Orleans. You think the Vikings don't have any chance to go into the Dome and beat the Saints in that particular game. And then the next week, you kind of as we're doing Minnesota at San Francisco, now you're thinking about, well, they beat New Orleans, so now do they have a chance to beat San Francisco? And in analyzing that game, we just felt that they'd used all of their energy and whatever it was that enabled them to beat New Orleans, and of course San Francisco knocked them off relatively handily. But it's look, the other thing too is I'm watching. You guys were talking about it before. I'm watching that game yesterday, and somebody said to me, "Well, what do you think of the way that they're doing the NBA and the NHL?" And I said, "It's pretty good. I'm getting used to it." But that game yesterday, that Clipper Dallas game, was so compelling in so many ways, and of course, the dramatic and fantastic ending to that game. I thought you forgot about all of the rest of it. You forgot it's in a gym. You forgot it's the fake fans. It's the dog, the animated dog, and all that stuff. You forgot about all of that, and it just became a great basketball game. And that was a terrific game. Doc Rivers is a great pal of mine, and I like to text Doc after the game and normally congratulate him. I didn't know what to say. This is like it's not quite a death of a relative, but I mean that was a bad one. And I just wrote to him last night. I said, "Look, in my mind now, the Mavericks are out of miracles. That's it. you'll get them on Tuesday night."
And you're the king of miracles.
Well, I know about one anyway.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we pull off another one. We have an NFL season here in a couple of weeks, and it's great to talk to you. Hope everything's good. I know you got a busy day, probably. What are you doing today?
I'm taking these guys out for a walk. No, today we've got a couple of Zoom calls. We're getting ready for the season. We're talking about what we're going to do, and we got 2 games that first week. We've got Houston at Kansas City. Come back here for Dallas at the Rams. So I'm immersed in it, my man.
Good.
Studying for the final exam.
I love it.
Hey, welcome again. This is great. Have a great long run with you and the Danettes.
Thank
guys
you.
Doing okay?
Yeah,
back,
everybody's being smart for the most part. I think. Yeah, we're trying to be non-essential, Al.
Stay that way.
Thank you. We're good at that.
Be good.
The great Al Michaels, play-by-play voice. Sunday Night Football. We're 2 weeks away from football. Crazy.